Welcome back. I'm Wavepunk, and this is day 38 of producing for a year. Today we continue on in our Psytrance track, continuing to add new musical elements and trying to complete the track formally and harmonically before we go back and perfect it with the mix and more effects and stuff. I added a melody with this pretty ornament sound that we made earlier in the track. Sounded like this. Sounded pretty good. Very improvisational. At this point, thematically, we're deviating from sounds that are really rigid, melodies that are really rigid, because the idea is this is a fight that is continuing and becomes more and more chaotic as it goes, so the melodies are mirroring that as well. I'm starting to think about how I'm going to end this track in the idea of what if after the fight was over, we had this kind of big string overture section, taking the melodies and themes from the track and putting it into that orchestra sound that we were talking about, maybe make it a separate track. What if that was the end of this track? And to that end, I'm still trying to figure out how to fit some strings in here, and so I'm wanting to allude to the strings a little bit earlier before we get to that section in preparation for that maybe happening later. I tried putting a gate on the strings to limit that long reverb tail. The reverb, I think, just makes it sound too real in what is otherwise a very robotic, techno-y sort of piece. And so putting a gate on it, tried that, sounded like this. It's okay. It's not great. So I ended up not using that. I tried next a tremolo and putting it at 16ths with a kind of 2-to-1 ratio of sound to muted worked out pretty well. I actually liked this sound, especially in the higher register over the top of the melody and the arpeggios. It creates a nice subtle effect that does the thing I wanted it to, of kind of getting the string sound in our ears so that when we have full strings later, it's less of a surprise. There was a subtle foreshadowing of it here. So I liked it. It sounded like this. At this point, this bit of musical idea sounded good, but like, where does it go from here? What is the build? I started to try and think through the rest of the piece, and to do that, I go back, go listen through it more times, clean up some things, give myself... Honestly, I started kind of doing some busy work of like, I don't know what the next idea is, so I'm just gonna kind of do what I know I can do. I thought about ending the video at this point. I wasn't quite sure where to go next. I cleaned up some channels, and then I got curious about how does this track sound without the bass and kick, that low area that I'm cutting everything out of. If I play it without it, does it sound good? And I was surprised in this new section to find out there was still some things getting through to the like 100 hertz area. So this is interesting. I've gone to the master and I have hard cut everything under, or everything over 150 hertz. Everything's out, right? You can tell it's completely gone. And then I've boosted everything under that as much as possible trying to listen to it. I have all of the bass and drums, the things that are supposed to live under 100 hertz, turned off and muted. So this is everything else, what is coming through. And if you're not on like headphones or like studio monitors, you probably aren't hearing anything. But there is noise, and you can see it. Even if you can't hear it, you can see that wave happening there. Again, this is a boosted wave, so this is an exaggerated effect. But this sound, there shouldn't be anything coming through, because everything else I've got on here, I have everything pretty hard cut. The interesting thing is if I take this kind of break beat that we added I think yesterday, if I solo it, you get a lot of those. So if I go back to the full mix and then mute this, a lot of it goes away. There's still something there, but it goes down dramatically. The weird thing is if I look at the EQ of that, it's mixed. It's got everything cut, like hard cut here. This is a cut, right? It's called the low cut. It's got everything cut at almost 500. So like, how is anything from this track slipping through to here? I don't know. I don't know what would cause that to be coming through, because it definitely is. And when you muted it, it goes away. There's a few other things clearly that are also kind of peeking through. So I don't know. It's funky. This is what the track sounds like without the bass and the drums. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's really, if that little noise that's happening down there is a big enough deal that I should really try and go cut that out. I feel like it is, but I'm just amazed that anything can slip under an EQ when it's that harshly relegated. If you know anything about that and maybe understand why that problem's happening, let me know. As far as the rest of the track goes and where we're going from here, because I've been saying this a few episodes in a row now of like, we just need to get the rest of the track done. And I'm kind of starting to do the thing where I get a musical idea down, like a new section, then I start adding things to it. And I think that's a good process to help me like really believe that, yes, this was the right decision. If I start to add these things in here, I like where this is going. And I do like where this is going. How do we ramp up from here? The thing I'm thinking right now, we've either had, are the piece just sitting on tonic with a little bit of implied motion, or we are actually going somewhere. And going through this chord progression that lands us back on one pretty quickly. I think maybe to have this really feel like it's going somewhere and the fight is progressing, we need to maybe do some, like have the section go to like have like a really long build up, and then when we come back down to one, that's where the piece starts to end. That's what that will be like the musical climax of the piece. So whenever I have an idea like this, like, ooh, this would be a good idea, I get the feeling of like, oh, but that means writing a whole bunch. Like I have to start over on MIDI. I have to like start building from the ground up. I think right now, as the last part of today's episode, I'm gonna build the bass part of this. Just these 3 tracks that I've been doing to just stretch out the kick, and then with the sub and the trance bass, expand those out. So yeah, actually I think I'm gonna put the MIDI in for the basses and get kind of the general structure of the song done at that point. And I'm gonna show you guys that tomorrow, once it's done. I'm gonna be taking these notes and moving them to new places. It's gonna sound really boring by itself, but I'll play it for you at the beginning of tomorrow. If you wanna hear what it sounds like, tune in tomorrow's episode. Thank you all so much for watching. See you guys tomorrow, bye-bye.